Hi everyone, this is Low Fiber Girl here, and now this is part 2. I'm going to be talking about why sucrose is easier to digest than starch and my experiences with both of these. So, sucrose is easier to digest than starch because it is a simple sugar with a tiny chemical structure that requires only a single instantaneous step to break down. Starch, by contrast, is a massive, complex chain of hundreds or thousands of glucose molecules that demands an intensive multi-step chemical breakdown across different parts of your digestive tract. The differences in how your body handles them explain why sucrose leaves zero residue, while starch is much harder on a sensitive gut. So, sucrose is a disaccharide. It is made of just two simple sugars chemically bonded together, one glucose and one fructose. Your small intestine only needs to snip one single bond to completely digest it. Starch, on the other hand, is a polysaccharide. It consists of complex, massive molecular webs, amylose and amylopectin, containing hundreds of interconnected sugar links. Your body has to cut thousands of bonds one by one to reduce it down to usable energy. Now, the sucrose is fast acting. When you digest sucrose, your body uses a highly efficient specialized enzyme located right on the wall of your small intestine called sucrase. The moment sucrose touches your intestinal wall, sucrase splits it instantaneously into glucose and fructose, which are immediately absorbed into your bloodstream. Digesting starch, on the other hand, starch requires a grueling, multi-stage enzymatic assembly line. It starts in the mouth with salivary amylase, pauses in the stomach, and resumes in the small intestine using pancreatic amylase. This only breaks the starch down into smaller fragments, maltose. Your body then has to use another enzyme, maltase, to finally convert it into simple glucose. So what happens is this creates a fermentation risk. Because sucrose breaks down so rapidly, it is completely absorbed in the very upper portion of your small intestine. It is gone long before it can travel deeper into your digestive system. Starch, on the other hand, takes so long to dismantle that if your digestion is sluggish, like mine, or if your gut is inflamed, like mine, such as during a Crohn's or diverticulitis flare-up, some of that starch will fail to digest completely. This undigested starch slips into the large intestine, where it becomes food for gut bacteria. The bacteria ferment it, creating gas, painful bloating, and bulkier stools residue. So here's a quick summary of that, is that basically under sucrose, table sugar, the structure is only two molecules, whereas starch, which is potatoes, rice, and oats, examples, it's hundreds and thousands of sugar molecules. Under the digestive steps, sucrose has one simple snip. Starch has multi-stage assembly line, mouth, pancreas, gut. Under the speed, table sugar is instantaneous, whereas starch is slow and prolonged. Under colonic residue, table sugar has absolute zero, whereas starch potential for undigested waste and gas. So you see that this is very problematic for someone who already has digestive issues. To be digesting starch can pose many problems. And so for myself, I realized that I either lack the enzymes to digest starch, or I have some sort of issues that prevents me from digesting it, being able to utilize the sugars that it produces for energy, because I receive absolutely zero energy from starch. When I make a cornstarch pudding or made with wheat flour as the thickener or anything like that. Or I've even tried tapioca. All those. I've even tried rice, rice flour or cream of rice cereal type of thing. If I use any of those, whether it's corn, wheat, tapioca, rice, any of those starches, I instantaneously get extremely tired with a massive headache, have to lay down for like 2 hours, feel totally awful, feel bloated, like it's not digesting, I'm receiving no energy from it, nothing's happening, and then it just feels like it's just coming out in my bowels later. So yeah, I do not digest starch. However, I digest table sugar, simple sucrose, no problem. So if it is so that my body is lacking sufficient enzymes to digest starch, that would be the amylase. When your body lacks sufficient amylase, starches pass into the large intestine entirely undigested. Once there, your gut bacteria ferment these starches, causing classic gastrointestinal distress, which is severe bloating and gas, and chronic diarrhea or loose stools, abdominal discomfort, fatigue, and weight loss. The primary causes is a deficiency in amylase typically signals underlying structural damage to the enzyme-producing cells. It could be chronic pancreatitis, which is long-term inflammation of the pancreas, gradually destroys its tissues, severely reducing its ability to manufacture enzymes. It could be cystic fibrosis, a genetic condition that creates thick, sticky mucus. This mucus plugs the pancreatic ducts, permanently trapping digestive enzymes inside the pancreas. It could be diabetes, advanced type 1 or type 2 diabetes, which can impair the islet acinar cell access, decreasing the pancreas's overall enzyme output. And it could be pancreatic or GI surgery. So that's basically it on that. Now, if someone can't digest starch, there are other reasons that could be possible. The inability to digest starch is chemically known as carbohydrate malabsorption. So that's what I feel like I have. And that occurs when your digestive system cannot break down the complex, long-chain sugars found in foods like bread, pasta, potatoes, and grains. When your body fails to break down these starches in the small intestine, they travel completely intact into the large intestine. Once there, millions of gut bacteria feast on the undigested starches, causing rapid fermentation that leads to severe gastrointestinal distress. Why it happens, it could be amylase deficiency, which I talked about, pancreatic insufficiency. It could be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. If too many bacteria live in your small intestine, they will ferment starches prematurely before your body even has a chance to digest them. It can also be celiac disease or Crohn's disease. Severe inflammation destroys the brush border lining of the small intestine. This lining is where the final starch digesting enzymes like maltase and glucoamylase live. And then it can also be congenital sucrase isomaltase deficiency, called CSID, a rare genetic condition where the body lacks the specific enzymes needed to break down both table sugar, sucrose, and the broken down fragments of starches, isomaltose. Okay, so if signs that you are not digesting starch, the symptoms typically peak 30 minutes to 2 hours after eating a high carb or high starch meal. Would be extremely painful bloating, loud stomach noises, explosive or loose diarrhea, floating or foul-smelling stools, and I won't go into detail about all that, but that you get the idea. And then for myself, it's some of those things plus extreme tiredness, because I'm not even deriving any glucose energy from it because it's not digesting. And that's basically it. So that's the difference between sugar and starch. So you can see how for a low fiber diet or low residue diet, sucrose is the winner just because it's less complicated for your body to break down. And if you have any issues like that, starches can complicate things. So it just depends on your body's ability. So I favor sugar over starch. Absolutely. I think it's an easier process for the body. Also, another factor is sucrose is lower glycemic than starch. When it's a refined starch, such as cornstarch, wheat starch, rice starch, the glycemic index of those is like between 90 and 100, or let's just say between 85 and 100. However, sucrose, the glycemic index is about 65, so it's much lower. It's considered moderate, and starches are considered high. So if you're looking for a less glycemic impact and a less insulin spike, actually sugar is better. It's more friendly for that. So overall, it's just what has worked for me is just consuming dairy with small amounts of white sugar into my diet. And the reason I do this is because I don't prefer to go 100% keto. When I bring the carbs down to near zero, or under 10, what happens is I start getting hypoglycemic. So it makes me feel like maybe my body isn't really 100% fat adapted, and perhaps I'm not able to derive enough of the keto energy to keep me going. Perhaps I'm not making enough ketones and such. So if my body's not functioning or working properly with the ketogenic diet, it can add a lot of stress then to my body. So I figure just to make sure my body's not stressed out, not going hypoglycemic, I just add in little amounts of white sugar to my diet. And I just find that helps a lot. Okay, well, that's basically the rundown for this talk. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write down below, and hope you all have a great day.